Welcome to the J-Team Information Technology Educational Series. This will be a series of educational videos that will be available on Udemy and other platforms to give you a full scope education into IT and different aspects such as telecommunications, databases, desktop support, and cybersecurity. Now, this is an introductory video. Before we get into the rubrics and the curriculum, I want to just give a groundwork and introduction to this course, which I think is very essential. This is to speak to potential students and techs in the field. Say you're a kid. You're getting out of high school. You don't really know what you want to do. You have a few ideas, you have a few passions, but generally you haven't narrowed down a field of study. Now, you're approached with a couple of options. You have one individual that says to you, I'll give you the keys to success. I'll give you the ability to start off slow and work your way towards making six figures to $1 million a year. And I'll show you the steps. It won't take long. I just need you to invest in me about $20,000 up front right now. And then I'll send you through the training that you can complete in probably a couple of months or maybe even less. And you'll get started making moderate amounts of money. And based on how you work, it'll increase. That's scenario one. Then you have another person who approaches you. This person works in the field actively, has educational materials that are readily available, but he says to you, I'm looking to expand my education into this field, and I have a profession, but I'm looking to expand and give the knowledge that I have to others for a modest return myself, but also to generate individuals that can be producers on their own. Now, what I'm requiring is your attention. My payment would only be a small percentage of whatever initial money you make after you start your venture successfully. Now, when you look at both scenarios, be honest. Which one are you more likely to trust and to get involved in? Now, many of you, under the pressure of this question, will answer the latter. But sadly, most of you are lying. If you look at the industry today, the tech industry and sales industry, you can go on YouTube right now and you will be bombarded about every 3 minutes with an advertisement of an individual telling you they have a venture where you can make from your couch or from your phone $100 an hour, and then shortly after you may make $2,000 every week. Before you know it, you're making $20,000 a month, and it's easy and they're willing to train you. All you have to do is just take their course, buy their book, and then if you follow through with their entire pitch, you'll find at the end they also need a $10,000 to $20,000 investment from you for the purpose of facilitating the education that they're going to give you for this venture. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. When I was 13 years old, I started my first job. And you know what it was? It was packing bags in a supermarket. A couple of years later, I used to stock shelves at a variety store, and I did security outside. When you're a child, like I was, who likes to buy stuff, you're industrious. There's a famous saying, it takes money to make money. Scare money doesn't make money. Those sayings have their place, but in reality, to begin earning, there's no such thing as pay to work. But so many of you fall into that nonsense, and you'll invest in these programs, and you'll give your money and attention and time to these people, and then get taken for a ride and cry afterwards. But then when you have ventures that are actually telling you, look, the knowledge is free. All I'm asking is that after you make it, the small percentage that would be taken normally upfront is taken from after you earn. And that's something that's known as a quantifiable amount, and it's agreed upon from the very beginning. Why? Because the money is not the focal point. In this enterprise that I've started, J-Team, to give you a background story, I come from the medical field originally, but I also come from the technology field originally. Growing up in high school, I remember getting an old refurbished tower, a Compaq, from my older brother who worked for Bell Atlantic. I got it. I was so happy to get it and tinker around with it. I would open it up, mess around with it. I got a couple of programs that allowed me to program games on it. I started programming some of my early projects on it. I was so proud of them. I'm like 12, 13 at the time. And I started studying on my own, a little C++, a little programming, not really having much of it sink in, just getting the overall gist of it. Then going through school, high school, etc. Like I described at the outset of this video, I was that kid that didn't really have a set plan for college and beyond. So at the end of high school, I got a couple partial scholarships. I was thinking more about sports than anything else. So my parents sort of took the reins and said, we're going to send you to a technical school. And I'm not the guy who's going to get on one of these videos like these other advertisers and tell you, oh, don't work. Only losers work. No, you can work if you want. If it's a profession that's fulfilling, do it. Healthcare is a fulfilling profession. I originally wasn't that engendered to it, and it still isn't the thing I like to do all the time, but it is a fulfilling profession, and it's a rewarding profession, and I've done it for 20 years. I'm not coming to you as somebody who's telling you about the millions that I'm making in my spare time, and why don't you join me? Think about it. Do you think any of these guys advertising on YouTube care for you to be rich? They want you to join them with their millions, and you never see a follow-up. You never see their lives on a day-to-day basis. All you hear is that they tell you they're making millions, and they give you testimonials that are fabricated, and then they're gone. The payout is your upfront investment. I recently was contacted by one of them who has a very prevalent video, I'm not going to name them, on YouTube right now. I followed through just to test it out. They run me through a whole hour-long video, introduction, talking about how easy it is and what motivated them to start the venture. Very convincing. And then at the very end, I need a $10,000 investment. This is something that you could do with your eyes closed. It takes virtually no skill at all. You can train somebody to do what they're alleging they want you to do in 5 minutes. But you need a $10,000 investment, and you need a few weeks to a couple of months to train me. What you guys don't realize is that's their cash out. That upfront money, they take it, and whether you make money after that, they really don't care. That's where their revenue is coming from. They're not making millions sitting on their phone, sitting at their computer, doing some breakthrough venture that's for easy money. No, their money is when you pay them and fall for it. Then they cash in. If I got 10 people to invest 10K into my nonsense, I just made 100K just by getting a few signatures. I run off, I invest that, that's my income. Then I make a video lying about how I'm making millions doing X, Y, and Z, and the cycle continues. And another important point someone brought out to me some time ago is all pyramid schemes are designed to collapse after the ninth level. So the minute you even entertain involving yourself in I bring you in, you bring somebody else in, they bring somebody else in, you're automatically signing up for defeat. It's going to collapse. All pyramids collapse after the ninth level. And I actually was never really aware of that. But these are the things that sadly are having success. These are the guys that get all of your attention, they get all of your money. But someone who's coming forward in a straightforward manner, it's hard for you to absorb it. Take heed now. I have a profession. I make over 6 figures a year. No need for me to lie. I work in imaging, medical healthcare imaging. I just so happen to have a passion for IT. And my love for IT is equivalent to my love for healthcare sciences. And I enjoy teaching and I enjoy learning. And what I'm going to teach you here is university level and technical level skills that it would take a tremendous amount of money and time to recruit. I recruited. I put the footwork in, and I'm sharing what I know because it's an asset. And I can even share the integration of the multiple fields with each other because not many have walked the road I've walked. I started in healthcare 20 years ago. I came back to IT because I've always had a passion for it. And I started getting credentialed. When I first started getting credentialed, doors started slamming in my face. I would not be hired for various reasons. Entry-level IT positions, I'm watching taxi cab drivers, I'm watching retail workers walk right into them. And after getting my credentials, nothing. Thus, I started expanding my business. And it was a blessing in disguise because I started learning more about tech and I started implementing more in my business. I'm taking you along that journey, integrating healthcare databases into the IT sciences, integrating telecommunications and networking into the healthcare industry and beyond, because I've seen it. I've done it. I have the notes and I have the footwork to prove it. So in this course, when you join J-Team, you are becoming your own dynamo. You're not joining a pyramid scheme. You're not being asked to go and recruit somebody. You're learning valuable skills that make you a self-sustainable asset. And you're just joining a team. The little bit of return that I get on the tail end is small because money is not the main focus. My main focus is to have an appreciation for what I'm bringing to the table. You'll get equipped with your own portal, with leads. I'm going to equip you to be right where I'm at. Access to different tech companies, to take on work orders and assignments and jobs and advance your career from there. Once you have the knowledge, and I'll give you the contacts. Simply. So with that said, we're going to get into some of what we'll be studying in this course. Just to give you an overview, let's start sharing here. We're going to come over here, share that. Now, we take a look here. This course is titled, self-explanatorily, Information Technology. In some of these lessons, we're going to be talking about computer systems. What are the components that make up a computer when it comes to hardware, operating systems, and applications? Those are the base forms of a computer. Now, it gets deeper than that. A computer can be broken down to something as simple as the logical unit. In essence, a computer's heart and soul is an ALU. A computer is a sequence of arithmetic computations and many various gates that form these computations and cause functions to happen in a computer, such as gates being opened, gates being closed, a charge or an absence of a charge thus makes up the foundation of binary, ones and zeros. Active, inactive. These are all processed into an ALU, which the machine reads as machine language. When it reads this machine language, it can produce a series of actions similar to a script that can carry out various functions and processes on your computer. At the base level, that's what's happening. We'll touch on some of that throughout this course, but just know there's a lot to be learned here, but we're going to do an overview. We're going to get to the heart and soul of matters. I'm not going to go into every single nuance, which would take eons of what we're going to be learning, but you'll learn enough that you'll understand all the nuances because you'll connect them together. A computer at its core are positive and negative charges. It's electrical charges. These are the sequences and the foundations that make up computers and allow them to run. You have an operating system that sits on top of an underlying hardware and BIOS. Now, the hardware, these are things that are tangible. That's your tower, that's your media, your peripheral devices, monitors, etc. Now, your operating system, that's what's going to control your hardware. You have your input, output devices, or O/I, you'll see it notated often, output, input, mouse, keyboard, etc. And you have a user interface. All of this is seen to you in what's called a GUI, a graphical user interface most computers are comprised of. Some of them have command lines where you'll see a screen of text and you'll be entering commands in order to facilitate actions. And as you get into tech, you'll see the usefulness of that. But most times you're used to seeing a graphical user interface. Now, these applications all have to run in a certain sequence. Say you have a line of people, they're all asking for something. You have to, as the manager of that function, the manager of that store, you have to decide who's going to get what they want first and why. And these are where processes are handled in computers. You have a round robin, you have first in, last out, last in, first out. There are various configurations, but ultimately it comes down to what's the most beneficial for your system. Is it better for everybody to get their own turn, one by one, or do you need to have certain processes prioritized? All of this is happening in the background and can be tweaked with your computer in order to maximize performance. You have videos running. You have documents and files that you're opening and viewing. You may have a game you're playing. What needs priority? So, in the world of computers, we have, of course, the two opposing forces of Mac and PC. Obviously, it's well known. I'm not a Mac lover, but you do have to learn Mac because you have to develop a love for all things that are computers. And at its core, the Mac is still a computer, just a different language. So we'll be learning some of the syntaxes for command prompts in Mac as well as Windows. Now, moving further on, when we apply this in the field, we're talking about tech support. We're talking about repair, troubleshooting, installation. If you look at the diagram here, this is a Cisco switch. It's an enterprise level one that's actually at a medical facility. This actually works in conjunction with two PCs, and it integrates and merges two systems. Now, in computer networking, you have broadcast domains, which are basically their own separate networks. Routers connect these. Switches work at a lower level, and that'll connect all the devices within that local area network. During this course, we're going to jump into the different layers of these networks. Everything starts from the physical device. It eventually reaches the level of an application. And this is referred to as the OSI model of 7 layers. Your physical layer, your data link layer, your networking layer, your transport layer, your session layer, your presentation layer, your application layer. Everything is decapsulated. When it's moving towards the physical layer. And encapsulated as it moves towards the application layer. Because essentially, every function starts off as an input on the application level. This is then transmitted across the network and is broken down into packets that move in payloads and in clusters of varying sizes across the network at the different layers, reach their destination, and they are now broken down back to what we discussed before, to those binary computer language bits that your computer processes. And that's sent through the wire as electrical impulses, back down to its basic level. And then right back to the application level on the other side, where it's interpreted at a human level, in human language. That's all that's happening every time you use a computer, you send a transmission, you press a button. That's what's happening, especially in networking. A machine may be speaking to, as this says here, several components. Here we see a system board. This is a system board of an HP Office LaserJet printer. Now, many of the newer ones have different form factors and board modules that can be detached. You can add memory to it. You can add functions to it. You can add input-output devices. Remember that key term again, OI, to these system boards. Now, this is a printer. You're looking at this thing, isn't this a computer? Yes and no. Every device, every communicating and computating device is a computer, even down to the watch on your wrist. They have computer components. Computing is what it says. It comes down to that ALU I mentioned earlier, the arithmetic learning unit. A computer is basically a processor of binary ones and zeros. It takes that input and interprets the task it's being asked to do. All that's translated as the message is sent from its destination, sent from its source to its destination. So every device that's capable of doing that is, in essence, a computer. So here you have a printer. The printer has to receive data, it has to store data, and then it has to process this data. And it has to do it at a certain speed based on its computational power. How many cores does it have? How much processing power does it have? How many bits can it process over a period of time? All of this you can calculate, but it tells you how effective and efficient the device is going to be. At the top here, you see a heat sink. Heat sinks are not only used in regular tower PCs. Anywhere where there's a PC, there's heat production. These heat sinks dissipate that heat and prevent the motherboard from overheating and warping. Which, when you get into computer repair and we get into some of the stuff you're going to be doing in the field, you're going to see the importance of understanding this heat production and how important the cooling system is to PCs. Here you have a hard drive, another important component. This is where non-volatile memory is going to be stored, and some volatile memory. In computers, those two terms refer to memory or stored functions that are stored in a computer's registers, RAM, and hard drive. Computers have what's called volatile and non-volatile memory. Volatile memory is memory that's very fleeting. The computer turns off, Just by losing power, it loses that memory. Those are usually what's stored in the registers and the caches. And then you have what's stored in the hard drive, file systems, etc. These are non-volatile. These will remain even after the computer is turned off. And it's important to understand these different things because you understand what needs to be prioritized if you were to be collecting data for safety purposes. So here you have a hard drive installed to the motherboard. It's a 500 gigabyte hard drive. You can see some of the information such as the SKU number. You see a part number, and then you see what's down here. If you can see it right above on the top barcode, it's called a CT number. When you're installing components in a computer, the manufacturer has specific encoded information for the device that is logged in the system for that brand, for that item, for that particular product. When you're installing a new component, you have to go through the system's BIOS, and you have to make sure that you are entering in the correct numbers for that part so that it will be actually recognized by the device. Otherwise, you can risk not being able to brand a new device into your computer, and it can actually lock you out. So a lot of this information is not arbitrary. It's there because they have to verify that a part can be accounted for when it's being installed, when it's being taken out. And just like when it comes to network devices, every device that communicates on a network has a MAC address, known as its physical address. That's like a branding. It's like a barcode. That's what identifies you, almost like your social security number. Nobody has that but you. So a lot of people will ask you, what's your social? Because they want to use that for absolute verification. No different from computers. You have serial numbers, you have CT numbers, you have part numbers. These categorize things. And here you can see the BIOS screen, as I mentioned earlier, for a system. Well, this is actually not the BIOS screen. This is the main menu to a printer, but you'll access the BIOS usually by a certain configuration. Sometimes you hold the icon at the touch screen. It'll boot you to the pre-boot or the BIOS. The BIOS is basically the computer state before the operating system loads. Before the operating system is bootstrapped and logs in, you have the preliminary software that runs underneath all of that, your firmware, etc. That's what links it all together. That's your BIOS. That's where you would actually change, if you wanted to, or reinstall and re-image your operating system to the hardware. So, for instance, you have here some commands. A lot of this will look like Greek right now, but essentially down here, it's talking about the BIOS reset for an HP. You hold the power off, hold the Windows and the B button. Now this changes from device to device. Or you may even hold the escape button at startup, or you may press F9 or F10. These are various ways of getting to the BIOS. When you get there, you have the option to secure the system. You can re-image it. You can install a new operating system. Or you can install a dual operating system. These are some of the many options that are open to you. So we've discussed some of the key core concepts of computer systems. Next episode, we'll get more in depth as to how you can start to utilize this knowledge in the field. What does this mean? What am I going to do with knowing that a computer, has this underlying operating system? You'll see the meaning for that in the next videos as we go into more of the material. But for now, go and look into what we just studied, and I will see you in the next lesson. This has been good foundation. Welcome to JT.